So great to be here. I believe I have a box here. So I'll try to give you an update on what's happening on our end and what we're seeing in the market on an overall perspective. And when we say Europe, of course, we run and operate the Nordic markets in primary, all the exchanges except for Oslo, and on which we then have the main market in First North. And then in Europe, we also have European companies wanting to access the US. So we have roughly 250 companies that are listed or dual listed in the US, from Israel, from Germany, and many other countries. And of course also from the Nordics. Last year, this year rather, we focused on the Polestar listing. And then we had Calliditas dual listing, and there's been a number of them, a handful. But on an overall perspective, I would say the fact that less Nordic companies have access to the US markets is also a reflection of the strong dynamics that we have here in the Nordics in supporting companies with the public markets. So it's great to see and today and listen to so much of the innovation that's being financed and supported by the public markets through our platform. And this presentation that we have here will focus on an overall picture, but also go into more depth on Nasdaq First North. And in case you want this presentation, then don't hesitate to reach out. I'm sure Naventus will distribute it, but we also have it on our website because we feel that many of the companies that are listed with us spend a lot of time trying to explain to international investors what this market is about, because they're not seeing something like this in the rest of Europe. And that's what I will talk a bit about today. So we have a unique financial ecosystem, and although First North is the same structure, same platform across the Nordic market, Stockholm is without a doubt unique. And this is not unique on a Nordic level, it's unique on a European level. And this is something I would like to address. So again, it's not about Nasdaq here, it's about the ecosystem around the platform. Everything from the advisors, the entrepreneurs, the owners, the investors, etc., which has really created a dynamic where basically our platform is outperforming year on year, even in more turbulent times such as these. If you look at the numbers, it's fascinating to see overall how the Nordics market perform on an overall return on equity. Large part of this is reflected in the fact that so many of the companies or so much of the growth is in the equity markets. Whilst in many other markets, if you compare the numbers with Germany, for example, last year, when we listed close to 200 companies in the Nordics last year, Germany listed 24. Now, you could argue, why is that? Well, fundamentally, our ecosystem is able to support so many of the smaller, mid-size, innovative companies that want to access the public markets, and that is not happening in the rest of Europe. So again, this is a reflection of the dimension of the activity that we're seeing across Europe and why we continue to outperform in terms of number of listings. So if you look again, the Nordics is the most active ECM platform in Europe. It was last year for sure. It overall represented 28% of the total capital raised in Europe. And we continue to be the most active platform. And when I measure activity, it's the number of companies that we're able to support. And again, there's a lot of focus on IPO, but equally important is the fact that we're supporting companies on an ongoing basis. Even more important in these uncertain times, the ability for companies to raise capital on an ongoing basis through our platform. So this is really where we see how the Nordic markets is a fantastic platform. We are committed to supporting growth and innovation through our growth platform. And we want to be a provider to small, medium-sized companies. That is our edge, and that's where we want to stay focused on. Many other markets are shying away from this because they see this as risk, they see this as a concern, they feel that maybe smaller, innovative companies should not be listed, etc. We see it on the contrary. We see that this is a fantastic platform, and it's great that companies have a choice to access the public markets or to finance alternatively outside. So again, we are focused on this. We're extremely proud of this phenomenon, and we want to continue investing in it. And As I mentioned, the Nordics, just to give you the dimension, we have, these are the 2021 numbers, but just to give you a dimension in terms of the number of listed companies on First North, in total, it's closer to 580 right now, so we've had a number of activities. I'll come back to that. But 425 at the end of the year, last year, 2021, were listed on Sweden, on the Swedish market, compared to our Nordic markets, which remains relatively small. So we're seeing more and more Nordic interest to access our Stockholm market. The fact that we've been able to list so many companies has also created an ecosystem around in terms of advisory, in terms of research, coverage, investor, etc. So overall, I would say we are on the right track to building a very active market. And who would have said that we, from a First North point of view, would have had more companies on First North than on main market where we are today. And keep in mind, 110 companies approximately have gone from First North to main market, which again has been a fantastic source of growth for our main market, and also a fantastic ability for companies to be supported in the life cycle of being able to access more and more investors by transitioning from First North to First North Premier to the main market. So I mentioned number of IPOs, number of listings. We measure all listings either without a capital raise. Many companies do a capital raise beforehand, then access the platform for trading. We had SPACs last year, etc. Capital raised last year was 13.5 billion. Capital raised together with secondaries or additional capital raised on the platform, close to 34 billion. Fantastic number. I'm more impressed by the second number than the first, but it's great to see that we've had a continuous flow of activity throughout the years and the ability to support and finance so much of the innovation and growth that is taking place in our markets. The stepping stone model is something we feel very confident that this is the right model and we want to continue investing in. It's the ability for companies not only to support them with access to capital, but the ability to grow with the platform, the ability to take step by step as they're developing their commercial model, and they're also developing the governance structure around their commercial model to reflect that by accessing more and more investors by taking step-by-step approach from First North to First North Premier to main market, I think is the right way to go. And of course, we could see now that with 425 companies on First North, there is room to start looking at segmentation and further diversification on First North to highlight the companies in a better way. So we are looking into that going forward. Today, as I mentioned, at the half-year line of 2022, we have 568 companies. We have 52 international companies. We're seeing more and more international interest for what is going on here. They're seeing their peers in various sectors listing. It's not taking place in their local markets. Therefore, they are now approaching us and approaching advisors and approaching their peers to understand what does the Stockholm work, why would the Stockholm market be relevant for them? And potentially we're now seeing more and more interest from German companies and from other companies in various regions looking to list here in Stockholm. We are appreciative of that. We see that this would be a great development for our market. It's not about the number of companies. It's about the focus of getting the right companies to list here. We feel that Stockholm has the ability to become more of an international marketplace, and we would love to see that development. At the end of the day, we're supporting the Nordic markets, but we would love to see the Nordic market be relevant in other contexts as well. And we're focusing on the DACH region in particular. You look at the DACH region again, the fact that Germany only listed 24 companies last year, many of these significantly larger companies, means that many of the smaller mid-sized companies are not able to access the growth platform that First North could mean for them. And that's why we're seeing an increased interest. Again, we look at these numbers in different ways, but at the end of the day, I don't have that slide here, I believe, but I think the slide which I think is very relevant is that this is risk capital. There's a lot of writing in the media about the development of First North companies and growth companies overall. My reflection on that is that it's a misguided dialogue. Because at the end of the day, this is about risk capital. It's about investors understanding that they're supporting companies at earlier stages through the public markets. It means that more investors can have access to that innovation or financing that innovation. all innovation does not succeed. All innovation is not a home run from day one. And it does not mean that if a company lists with us, that they're a mature company with a stable growth model. On the contrary, this is about supporting companies with risk capital to support innovation through the public markets and making it more accessible. Risk is either comes with failure or success and takes time to evolve. Any misguided perception about measuring growth on a short-term basis is a misguided dialogue, in my view. And from that perspective, we're extremely proud that we're able to support companies innovate. And some companies will succeed, some companies will fail, some companies will evolve, will take longer time to evolve. But that's the nature of risk capital, and that's why we feel comfortable that what we are doing is the right thing, and that's why we want to be a provider to these growth companies. And we've seen the evolvement, and it's a fantastic evolvement. And of course, what we're seeing now is the interest and the appetite has grown to invest in First North. Of course, the last year has slowed down. We're seeing a market which is much more or less dynamic, of course, because of geopolitical and market environment. But overall, we're seeing also that more and more there's an appetite amongst investors to engage with the public markets now because they're seeing valuations correct and potentially seeing an opportunity to step in. So from that perspective, we see a continued environment which is reflective of the trading activity that we have seen grown over the last few years. And this again reflects that the benefit of having First North on our overall platform means that First North is just a segment on the overall infrastructure, which means that the larger trading community can access our platform. It is CCP cleared, meaning that if you are an international trader today, you're not taking counterparty risk. You are just taking the risk of a clearinghouse, which means that there's a lot more safety and security, and that's why we're seeing a lot more international participation on the First North platform, both from an investor point of view, but from a trading point of view as well. And from an ESG point of view, just to round off, it is becoming an increasing topic, as we all know. It's typically been guided towards larger companies, but we feel that it is a relevant opportunity for our smaller mid-sized companies. And therefore, it's important that we as a company or as a platform help companies guide them towards what they can do within ESG. So these are a number of areas where we are working on the ESG. We encourage you to reach out so that we can work with you and identify how we can support you. One thing that we launched last year is the ability to position yourself as a Nasdaq green equity. If you feel that this could be relevant, please do reach out to us. Let us have a dialogue. We have 10 companies today that are Nasdaq green equity, and we see an increased appetite. It's a clear way for you to send a message to the market that you are, in fact, a green company, not only that you're providing a green service. And you see the reach in terms of ESG investment. This is one of the unique aspects of our market, that we have more and more ESG capital, and therefore the ability to position yourself towards these investors in a clear way is a missed opportunity if you don't take it on. Good. I feel that I'm at the end of the speak. So thank you very much. Don't hesitate to reach out for this presentation if you want it, and reach out to us if there's anything we can do to help you and support you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Adam. Please stay for one question.
Yes.
So you mentioned and you stated very clearly that the First North is a unique platform.
Yes.
So, but how can other markets in the world learn from this and develop in the same manner? Because we do need more risk capital into innovations, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're not standing here saying that First North is perfect by any means, but we're a reflection of the ecosystem that is here in Stockholm, which is punching above its weight on a global basis. Keep in mind, we've done 54 listings this year so far in the Nordics. US has done 84. It's the unique ability to support smaller mid-sized companies. Larger companies have alternatives, smaller companies do not. And therefore we feel that this platform should be a continued investment. We spend a lot of time in Brussels talking about why the Swedish market has evolved. There will be a listing act coming up from the EU on the 7th of December, which again will provide additional benefits for growth markets such as First North. So we're eagerly awaiting to see what will come out of this. And again, a lot of the initiatives have been based on the success from the Stockholm market, but we don't want to just stand on our heels based on the success, but we want to continue see improvements for the ability for smaller companies to access capital. At the end of the day, we're just part of the ecosystem. It's not about only the exchange alternative. It's about making sure that the exchange is a relevant alternative, and then it's up to the company to choose which way to go.
Well, thank you very much
Thank
indeed,
you.
Otto. Thank you.